Hi everybody, welcome back to Seeds. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Christine. Today Tracy and I, we are going to talk about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness and why forgiveness is important. Why it's important and why it's necessary in our lives. We'll talk a little bit about when we forgive, who we're forgiving for, who it benefits, and we'll go from there.
Well, maybe we should discuss the different kinds of forgiveness first.
Okay, so...
As in, there's one where you forgive people without even getting an apology from them, but you forgive for yourself, and then also the forgiveness of someone actually is apologizing to you. I think what's more importantly is the one... Well, both are very important, but I think the one that's even more important is the one where you can forgive somebody even though you don't get an apology from them.
Mm-hmm. I think that both of them, I think there's the same internal process that you go through in both cases. Would you agree with that? You're forgiving from the point of view. I think in the case where you have not received an apology, obviously you're not obviously, but one of the main things is you're doing that to free yourself from it, because it's not like the person even knows that you've forgiven them. It's not like, you're really doing that to free yourself. And I really think that really is the main reason
why you forgive, period.
Why you forgive, period, so that you're not stuck in the bondage of some sort of animosity or some sort of hate for someone. At the end of the day, forgiveness is very, very important for the person who is actually doing the forgiving. What happens with forgiveness? Like what does we say that all the time. Okay, I forgive you. Does that mean that we're not hurting by what they've done? What does that mean? Like on a call it a spirit level or soul level, what does that actually mean? Do you think that when people say they forgive, that we've truly forgiven? Like, what is forgiveness? What do you think forgiveness actually is?
Well, what I think it is when you've forgiven somebody of a wrong that they've done, you actually let that wrong go. I think that is probably the textbook way of forgiveness.
So you're cleaning
the slate with them.
The slate
yes.
is completely...
That to me is true forgiveness, that you're cleaning the slate. But it's true, it's a process to let go of whatever hurt they caused you. But I believe when you're going to forgive somebody, you have to find a way to, like we just said, wipe it off the slate completely, which that is the difficult part to do.
Because you're not forgetting the offense that's happened to you, right?
No.
You're not forgetting. And in some cases, they've even taught you what they're capable of, right?
Yes.
So to be exposed to the same individual again, you are, in true forgiveness, you are really deciding to leave yourself vulnerable to this person again, to being hurt by this person again.
Yep.
And that is a very, very hard thing, I think, for any of us to do, especially if we've experienced such an assault by somebody, but yet so vital to freeing ourselves.
But I also think that with the perpetual ones that continue to do it, you have to make up your mind. Even though you forgive them, you can't give them an in anymore to come back and do it again. And that's just the way I operate. I get to a point where it's like, okay, fine, I forgive you, but you're not going to have a chance to do that to me again.
And I think we all get to that point, and I think that point is very, very individual.
Yes.
It's individual. It's
Absolutely.
Very subjective to you.
And
it's subjective to the person, to what you can handle, and to the situation.
Yes.
I do think that, you do, when it gets to the point where you either remove them from your life, so to speak, that speaks more to either the amount that you can handle, or you're either trying to teach people how to treat you, or to let them to establish what your barriers are, right, or what your boundaries are.
Exactly. Could be both. I think it is a bit of both. And then it's up to you to decide if you want to, after some time has passed, to let them back in. Because I do believe everyone deserves more than one chance. Even the Bible speaks, you're supposed to forgive people 70 times 7 or something like that. Like, it was a phenomenal number.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there comes to a point, though, if I've been through that experience of someone who's asked for forgiveness a few times and would turn around and do the same thing again once everything is smooth. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. You want to smash someone in their face. You know what I mean? I'll be honest. You want to smash them in their face, but you know, you get to learn more through the process of how to deal with this within. And I think that's the key, is you have to deal with it within. And then at some point you have to make up your mind, am I going to give this person another opportunity after so many to do this again to me?
Right.
Like, at what point do I learn my lesson?
Because I think when we're forgiving them, let's suppose we forgive them the first time, and then they go around and do it again. I think the reasonable question that has to come into your mind is, you know the spirit with which you were forgiving from.
Yes.
But what you're now questioning is the spirit with which they were apologizing from.
Exactly.
And were they apologizing more to be able to further victimize you?
Exactly.
To take advantage of you again?
Mm-hmm.
You know, to benefit in some way, or are they truly, truly sorry? Because would the same offense turn up
if they were
truly, truly sorry?
Exactly.
And I think in that case, you absolutely have every right to not let yourself be exposed to that person or to that situation again. In order to, you have a responsibility to yourself.
To yourself first.
And you can still walk away, you know, loving that person and whatever, but you also understand what they're capable of. You understand either, and it could be a situation where they may not be trying to be malicious. I for some reason, what comes to mind are people who are addicts, and it could be an addiction to anything. I mean, I think when we think of addicts, the obvious comes up, like, you know, drug addicts or alcoholism, things like that. But there's other addictions as well. Some people are addicted to lying and deceiving. We talk about the narcissist in their ways as well. But even in those instances where they may feel that they cannot help themselves because there's something else that's driving that behavior, this addiction that they have. So in order to meet or to get what they need, they're prepared to betray a trust in you in order to do it. And even in those, you can say, you know, I feel sorry for this person. They can't help it, or at least they feel they can't help it. But there still comes a point where you can decide, I still have to protect myself. I still have to keep myself shielded.
That's it in a nutshell, because there's only so much you can leave yourself open. But maybe we should discuss how to forgive those that do continue to do that, and the process of letting them back in again. Like how in the sense of how many times. Well, you're right, that goes on the individuals.
It does, because really, if you're forgiving and you haven't, there's two parts to it, I guess. There's forgiving and still continuing a relationship with this person, and then there's forgiving and severing the relationship. So in the case where you're forgiving and still maintaining, if you're truly forgiving from that place, you are wiping the slate clean. So they are still there, and you are leaving yourself vulnerable to them, but by choice, which means you must know your own inner strength. You must know what you know, I don't know if
can tolerate,
what you can tolerate, or what you're willing to tolerate.
Yes.
And what you can handle. But and then you get the situations where this is not a question of forgiving because anyone has asked you to forgive them. But maybe they have done something, or someone has done something, and I don't know, it's just so...
And well, that, like you said, that's when you have to go within yourself and figure out what you can cope with. Because unfortunately, a lot of people they might not even recognize they did something wrong to you. And me personally, I believe that if someone wrongs you, you should say something so that they know, and then give them that, because you have to give people an opportunity to be forgiven, and if they choose not to take that opportunity, well, then that's when you go on your own and you do it on your own. But I do think that you should speak to the person if they've offended you in some way, and let them know, make them aware that they've done this. And then that's when you can really, it makes it easier to gauge not if you're going to forgive them, but if you should let them back in by how they react.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's letting them back in. And I think what you just said there, not if you should forgive them, because I do think that forgiveness, you're really doing yourself a favor.
Yeah,
it's for you.
For yourself.
It's for you to really free yourself from this bondage. This you can find yourself getting so consumed in what's happened to you. You actually can become very self-centered. You're freeing yourself from being a victim in the situation.
Well, even to even go further, you're also freeing yourself from sickness, because when we were talking about energy and frequency and vibrations last week, that's a vibration that is a lower vibration, and that can actually having that in your system all the time and fretting about what they did and not forgiving them could eventually cause you physical sickness. You know, and so that's why I think it's even more important for you to learn to forgive.
How do you know that you have forgiven? Like, I mean, like I said, we throw this out. Okay, I've forgiven them, but yet, like you said, I mean, maybe those are some of the signs how your mental well-being, your physical well-being, you know, or have you really forgiven somebody? How do you know that you've actually really? What would be some of the fruits of that?
The fruits of it would be that I believe with true forgiveness is that it's not playing on your mind anymore. For me, that I can only speak for me, but for me, you don't even think about it anymore. You're done with it. If you see that, if it's a person that's not in your life anymore, you see that person, it might conjure up memories, but it just goes away as quick as it comes. You're not harping on it in your mind. You're not,
dwelling on it. Yeah.
So, and I think that is the sign that you've actually forgiven that person, because you've moved on from it. It's so yesterday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that when you can tell that you haven't forgiven, it's when you are constantly dwelling on the thought or what they did, and you're even having physical manifestations of stress because of what they've caused you.
Yeah.
And for some people, they feel like they deserve an apology. You have to they deserve it. So
that's huge. And they can't forgive
until you ask for you apologize. Yeah.
That is really something I want to talk about, because you're right. There's a lot of people who feel that the person isn't worthy of the forgiveness unless they apologize. But I think the main point that they're missing is that, apology or not, you are worthy of freeing yourself from that trap, from that grip that by not forgiving them holds you in.
Yeah, because there was a quote I saw that said, "Accept the apology you never got." And
that's so huge.
And that, in order to free yourself.
Yeah.
And so you can if you have to even pretend in your mind that you, like, meditate that you got an apology spiritually or something, just to make you let go, then let that be what it is.
Because going back to the same thing, who's to say that the apology that you received was even real anyway? So if you're holding out for just someone to say words, "I'm sorry," and those words are not meant, they're hoping that those words just create an environment for them to take advantage of you again, then really, were those words necessary to be heard anyway? No, it doesn't matter whether you get the apology. You owe it to yourself to free yourself, and that's where true forgiveness comes in. And I think for someone who has been offended, it's so hard, because you go into it thinking that you are doing this offender a favor. You think that the forgiveness is for them. And I think that we have to really understand the true value and benefit of forgiveness. It's really, to me, I'd rather turn it as I'm letting this go.
Yes.
Instead of I forgive you, because if even I forgive you, if there's been a horrific thing that's happened to you, you feel this person's not worthy of it.
True. That's another part. Yep.
And then in their unworthiness, therefore I can't give you forgiveness.
Yes. You have to learn to forgive without an apology.
Well, it's funny because even when we were talking about living in the moment, really and truly, if we are really embracing that whole idea of living in the moment, we wouldn't be waiting for anything. The forgiveness really should be able to come instantly.
True.
If you're truly living in the moment, it means you've let go of everything in that past moment that just presented, and you've instantly forgiven. And, you know, that to me speaks more to you being truly invested in your own well-being.
Exactly.
And knowing that you're entitled to feel well and to feel good in every single moment. I remember a friend of mine, their son, said something to me once, and it really said a saying to me, and it was so powerful. He said, his name was Jaron, and he said to me, he had gone on an excursion to somewhere in, I believe, South Africa. And he had this sort of spiritual awakening, and he came back and he was telling me all about his trip and what it did for him, and it seemed to be a very, very wonderful trip for him. And one of the things that he said to me was, that he learned, was that pain is inevitable.
Yep.
Suffering is a choice.
Absolutely. Very true.
There's things that happen to us or that come to us in our lives, either by the hands of people that we love or just strange, random events that happen that are going to shake our foundation. It's going to shake us up. It's going to cause us pain.
Yeah.
And that is what showed up at that moment in time. It is our choice whether or not we are going to carry that moment in time into the next moment, and into the next moment, and into the next moment. And if we are really embracing this whole idea of living in this moment of now and letting things go, we should really try to strive to be able to get to a point where we can instantly forgive any offense that has happened to us. Not for the other person, although we know we talked about energies, we know it will benefit them too. But it will benefit them as a byproduct, but more because it's your well-being.
Exactly.
This is about your well-being. This is about your God-given right to live this life in pure joy, in pure happiness. And to the extent that you cannot let go of things, you are denying yourself your God-given gift.
Absolutely. So true.
Yeah. So forgiveness is so less about the other person, although it will and does benefit them. But it is about you.
It's about you and being able to move on and, like you said, live in that moment and be truly happy. Because if you don't find a way to forgive in your heart, it's gonna destroy you. Eventually, it could destroy you. And I think when there is no forgiveness in your heart, it breeds other negative emotions.
It so does.
It snowballs.
We talk about the law of attraction again.
Exactly. So
it really does, because you're operating at a certain frequency,
vengeance,
which is attracting vengeance, all these things.
Everything.
And not only that, it'll affect your self-esteem. Why did this happen to me? What's wrong with me? Why did this happen to me? So the longer you stay in the energy of that offense, and you become stuck in that place for any amount of time, and trust me, listen, I know this is so much easier said than done. I realize it, but the more it's not even, I want to say the more you practice it, it's that's one way of looking at it. But I would sooner even say the more you accept and embrace the fact that you are worthy of every single moment to be in joy, you will then decide that you are not going to give your power and your joy away to any situation for any longer than you need to. And to me, aside from the moment that the offense happened where it would have shocked you, beyond that, you really don't have to suffer.
And there's another side to this that I think, too, that the more unforgiving you are, the more things are going to keep coming your way to teach you to learn to forgive.
Opportunities, you're right.
Absolutely. I think you will withdraw. The more unforgiving you are, the more obstacles you're going to bring your way to teach you how to forgive.
Yeah.
Where at some point you're going to have to say, okay, you know what, I can't stay under the weight of these things anymore, and I notice more and a lot of people probably sit there and think more and more, why does this keep happening to me? Why does stuff keep happening to me? Maybe you're harboring something inside of you that is drawing more of this, because the lesson for you is to learn to forgive without.
And let's okay. This is getting good now. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this law of attraction, just as it relates to this. When we talk about when we're operating at a certain frequency. So again, this Abraham Hicks, who I've listened to quite often, the way she likes to say it is that if you turn your dial to 93.7, you're expecting to hear whatever 93.7 is sending through. You can expect to hear what's at 108.1 if you're tuned in to 93.7.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you're operating at that frequency of unforgiveness, and therefore you've got all of this resentment in you, you've got all of these bad feelings, like you've now judged this person, that this person is this way. So let's suppose somebody stole from you, okay? Now that person is a thief. This is a thief. So what they did is they demonstrated thievery in that particular moment. Maybe prior to that they never did before, but in that particular moment they showed up as a thief in your life. They stole from you. By you keeping even that individual at that frequency in your mind, okay, they are a thief. You are sending out to, in your thoughts, in your mind, even to that person, around that person, that they are a thief. Should you still let them in your life? Now here's the thing. If you haven't let them in your life in a truly unforgiving way, and you still have that vibration of they are a thief, you could very well be attracting that same behavior from them. It's almost like they are living up to the expectation of what you have of them. I mean, this goes into some really interesting areas that we will likely cover a little bit more in the discussion we do have about law of attraction. But you really are holding people in a vibration, in a space, in a negative space, that by forgiving or letting go would actually free them from too. So you're almost affecting who they are by the projections that you have about them as well.
Yeah, to a degree, I absolutely agree with that. And but the thing is, when you forgive them, you can forgive them of what they've done to you, and yes, change your mindset for that. If we're talking about a thief, okay, if it's a one-time thing, then I can just speak for me. But if it was a one-time thing, then yeah, you can forgive them, and forgive them for you yourself too, and eventually let them back in. But now if they do this 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times to you,
I'm not saying that at any time you have to let them back in. But maybe you release from your mind
change the mindset. Okay,
that they're a thief, as opposed to they showed up as a thief in this moment, but the next moment's, hopefully if you choose not to let them back in.
That is a very difficult thing to do, though, because in your mind, even though you're right, because I know the next question is going to be, but in your mind, if you truly forgiven them, you wouldn't see them that way. But it's so hard, and I know for me, it's like first thing that's going to pop in my mind about
lock up my stuff.
So did it exactly.
Where's my purse?
And it's going to be,
where's the safe?
Yeah, hi, don't worry, I forgive you. Let me just hold this real close. I forgive you, but yeah, seeing that actually is the more difficult thing to do to change your mindset of that person, because a lot of people think they did forgive that person, but when they see that person, the first thing that pops up is what they did. So then, did you really forgive that person?
Yeah, I know.
And that is, that's a very difficult thing to do, because I don't believe in forgive and forget. You can't forget. You'll never forget, because it's a lesson learned.
No,
you have to learn the lesson.
Exactly.
It's how you apply that lesson now in your life, in your mindset, that makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key. How do you do that effectively?
Yeah. That's really hard, because I mean, what I'm inclined to say, and people probably think like this girl is mad to even say this, but what I'm inclined to say, just based on what you said, is you're right. If you've truly forgiven them, then you've wiped the slate clean, which means that you should be able to have your purse right there in front of the person, leave the room, and
you shouldn't see the thievery anymore.
That's right.
You shouldn't. That's right.
You shouldn't.
But human conditioning. And the way we're taught is don't forget what they did.
And don't forget what they did in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Maybe
but
that's
then,
the
right,
key
but
in
do
that
you
moment.
But do you expose yourself?
Right. I think that's the key in that moment. What they did in that moment. You have to decide it is still that person.
I mean, And they're not necessarily that person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go back to different times in my life, troubled times in my life when I stole.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously,
we've all been there. Yes,
like
course,
I went to, and when I go back to troubled times in my teen life, when for whatever reason I stole.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I can't even connect to that time anymore.
Yes,
I can't. You talk about forget. No, you don't forget.
Yeah.
But I truly,
you're not spiritually vested in that anymore.
I can't even connect to that anymore.
That was,
But I'm going to be honest. Like I was, when I was going through different times in my life or whatever it was,
influences,
my own sense of self-esteem, my own sense of whatever it was.
Fitting in,
I don't know, maybe to feel a sense of control of something where the rest of my life felt out of control. I don't know what the reasons could be in doing it, but the truth of the matter is that that's not who I am.
No.
I am so not that person. I lied. We all did.
Oh yeah.
We all have. But again, I am so removed from that. I have grown. I have, you know what I mean? So again, to hold somebody in that space, and then there's those who maybe I have hurt in that way, but because they let themselves be vulnerable to me again, they gave me the opportunity to show that I wasn't that person anymore, right? Or that they weren't, they didn't have to be vulnerable to me.
Well, then that is a good lesson for people to take from this. Then when someone's done wrong to you, recognize the times you've done something similar or something, and are you still that person right now?
Exactly.
Are you still, and then maybe that might be the road to help you even changing your mindset of that person. They were that person at that moment, but they're not that. So maybe you have to, once again, what we said from Jump Street, is to look within.
To look within.
Look within and
do as to others as you would want them to do unto
yourself. Others as you would want them. Yeah.
Which means I would want to forgive others.
You want someone to forgive you.
Forgive me, exactly. And so
that's a very good lesson. I think that's the best lesson, because I think when you apply stuff to yourself, which unfortunately I think we're all secretly narcissists deep down inside. I don't know if it's narcissism, but when you apply situations to yourself, it makes you realize that, oh, okay, well, you know what, I'm the same way. It's like you, and what you're even saying, we are one. We are one. So when one does something, it affects the rest.
Yeah.
So you should also recognize that what you do is going to affect them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This forgiveness thing, it's so huge, man. It's so huge because, when I go back, and I go back to, when I was a teenager, when I go back to certain moments where I know I had been offended, and when I didn't really understand, I understood forgiveness on everyday types of things. But when you do not forgive in your heart, you hold yourself in this place for such an unnecessary amount of time. You truly have not freed yourself. And when I think back to certain times where things were held on for years, because of an inability for me to forgive.
Right.
I did so much damage to myself.
Yes.
In not letting it go.
Yep.
In not truly letting it go.
And I think we've all been there, and I think with age comes wisdom.
Yeah.
And you start to learn how to even forgive yourself and forgive others.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is.
And in this instance that I'm referring to, this was not one where I received an apology.
Yes.
This was not one where I received an apology. This was one where truly, like, you know, and maybe again, because that apology was, I think that's part of why the forgiveness took so long.
Yeah.
Was because the apology was never given.
Yeah. And somewhere in your subconscious, you were waiting for it. You think
I felt I was entitled to it. I deserved it.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so therefore, really, I allowed that situation and that person to keep me in that bondage by withholding an apology. I gave my power away. I gave my joy away to whatever extent. I mean, I felt I was carrying on. I felt I was whatever. But when I think back, I was still in that bondage. And until it probably was maybe 10 years later, when I understood this power of forgiveness and that it's really for yourself, was I able to forgive in my heart. And when I think about that, my whole world turned around.
Yep.
My whole world turned around.
Because you do find you let it go. Even though you remember it, you let it go. You've let go of that.
You're not a prisoner.
No, you've let go of that drowning feeling or that feeling that was sucking you under, because you're free. The shackles are off.
Yeah.
So now you can free. You're free. You can fly. I mean.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is the key, that you have to learn to forgive with or without an apology.
With or without an apology.
With or without. It's going to you.
I mean, if I could go back, I swear to you, if I could go back, I swear with all that I've learned, I swear I could forgive those situations instantly.
Yes.
Wouldn't mean that I would forget it. It wouldn't mean that I would necessarily leave myself vulnerable, exposed to that person or to that individual, because there are people out there. This is the thing, is there are people out there that, depending on the vibrational frequency that they are operating on, depending on their level of conscience, they don't care about you. It is about them. It really is about what they can gain from you. So you have to be wary. You have to use discernment. You have to use wisdom. Having said that, or knowing that, no, you don't have to leave yourself vulnerable to somebody again. But for your own self, for my own self, I would have forgiven instantly so that I could free myself from everything that surrounds.
I can't say I'm that far yet. I'm not that advanced yet, I'll be honest. I have to go through a process. Yeah.
So
I
what are you saying then?
I personally think that I have to feel every emotion first to get to the point of, and maybe it's just the way I'm wired, but to get to the point of forgiveness, I get there, but I can be honest, I can tell you I won't be able to do it instantly. I won't.
And you know what I'm learning now is that I can forgive. I'm using forgiveness to allow me to properly get through those other emotions. I still will have those other emotions. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm not angry.
My perception
Forgiveness
of it.
doesn't mean that I'm not angry.
Yeah.
Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm not hurt.
Yeah.
Forgiveness doesn't mean that I'm not devastated by really what another human being is capable of. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I don't feel betrayed. Right? But I think that in letting myself go, in letting it go for me, I can now use that as my fuel to navigate myself through all of those other emotions. Otherwise, I think I could really and truly be stuck. I could get stuck in those emotions where I can't get out of those emotions because Okay. So, as we were saying, forgiveness really, we're in agreement. Forgiveness, at the heart of forgiveness, is really releasing yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess everyone has their own process of how to handle it.
Yeah.
But the eventual outcome should be you forgiving that person, whether you get an apology or not.
Whether you receive an apology or not.
It's up to you to free yourself.
Yeah.
From it.
Yeah, because forgiveness is a personal thing.
Yes.
It's not about the other person.
No.
It really isn't about the other
person. We're taught that
it's
you, but I do also believe that if someone offends you, I believe it's almost imperative that you let that person know they offended you. I think you have to let them know, because otherwise, even though it's not about them, but I think that in itself is a part of letting it go, because it's out there, you're not harboring it inside. And also for them to recognize they've done something wrong.
And to the extent that they've done
something wrong. They have to know it, because otherwise, if they truly are not aware of it, how are they even supposed to ask for forgiveness?
Well, first of all, the forgiveness is taking place whether they ask for it or not.
No, I know, but
how are they supposed to know that they've even done
something? Exactly, because otherwise they could continue offending people and offending you without knowing that they're offending you.
Yeah.
So
state the offense.
State the
lay
offense.
It down.
Yeah. And you can even say, "But I forgive you for doing this to me." You know what I mean? But I still think it has to be out there in order for it to be dealt with, whether it's internally or externally. It has to be out there.
And the thing is that forgiving is not necessarily understanding the situation. You may never understand why certain things have happened to you. You may never understand how somebody could bring themselves to do, because some of these things that you're talking about, in terms of having to tell them, some things go without saying.
Yeah.
You don't steal from somebody. You don't murder people.
Absolutely,
you don't hurt people. You don't there's things you just, you don't deceive. And you know that the person is aware that they're doing that. So you don't have to tell them, I mean, they know. You're not, at least you don't have to tell them from the point of making sure that they know, because they know.
Oh, no,
right?
Yeah.
But I guess it's that.
I think it personally is to give them they need to have accountability. That's what it is. Even because they could straight up be doing whatever the heck they want to do to you. They need to feel accountability, though. They have to accept accountability for what they've done.
Do they have to accept it?
Yeah. Well, not accept it, but we can't make them
accept it.
But they need to know it. They need to know it.
They need to know that you know what they've done.
Exactly.
At the very least, they need to know that you are aware of what they have done.
Yes.
And whatever they choose to do with it is on them. I mean, you can only hope and pray that, that they wake up, that their conscience opens up, in such a way that they can do better for themselves. But with or without any apology, I think total agreement.
That's the key.
It's the forgiveness is about what's operating within you. It's about releasing you. It's about letting yourself go. It's about freeing yourself from any form of bondage, freeing yourself from having to be a victim of any emotions that are now surrounding the offense that has happened to you. And we can get so caught up and consumed in the emotions of either betrayal, hurt, all these things, and to the extent that eats away at you, you owe it to yourself to free yourself from that.
I can speak to it being a very difficult process, because I have been in the past a very grudgeful person. But I'll tell you this right now, once I got to the place of forgiveness with that person, it felt like a weight coming off my shoulders. I felt completely free. So trust me, the process of forgiving someone is extremely freeing, and I think that I would like everyone to absorb that the process of forgiveness is extremely freeing for you.
For you.
For you.
And I'm going to tell you where I am in this. It was difficult for me before I began to truly love myself. I love myself so much now. I know that I am worthy of being happy as opposed to being sad. I have a responsibility to myself, and in that love for myself, it is it has become a very easy thing for me to do, because it is less about that person as much as it is for me. So somebody does something to me, I can honestly tell you, you are forgiven immediately. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be hurt. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to recognize the betrayal. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to recognize the lie. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to recognize that you could be a danger to others and that you could, it doesn't mean all of those things. But I can tell you right now, you do something to me, for my sake, you are forgiven. You will be forgiven almost immediately, if not immediately, because I understand the true power that forgiveness gives to me.
No, I hear you. And I can speak for me that I love myself just as much, but I'm a person that I prefer to sit, even though I know I come there, but I like to sit and think about the situation. I have to process things in my mind on how I get to that place of forgiveness. Because I want to be sure that I am truly, and this is just your process is not wrong, mine necessarily isn't either.
No.
It's how the individual deals with things on their own. Some people will be like Christine, some people will take a little longer, like myself. I don't think it's a question of you not loving yourself. It's how you as a person can come to grips with true forgiveness. And
I guess what I see, and I actually, for me, I would actually say, because I've come here, because of I guess the hurts that I've been through, and we all have been through our own hurts, but because I know that the only thing that frees me is forgiving.
And that's, I
would say,
but
and if we understand that forgiving is to free you, different or not different, if the premise is that forgiving is to free yourself, right, then why wait to free yourself?
Because some people don't process as quickly as you do, maybe.
I'm not saying that they're not, but understand that however long it takes,
because you know what, I think that for people, they have to be honest, because to me, and I'm saying, like I said, that's good for you, I think that people, one thing I can also tell you is, be true to yourself. Who you are is the most important thing, and you have to thine own self be true. And I'm trying to explain that sometimes people have to sit down and process things before they can actually put that forth, because what if it is just on, like, you can speak for yourself, but I'm trying to speak to people that probably aren't there yet, where they have to sit and process it. And so I'm trying to put it forward that make sure you are in a place where you can say you forgive and mean it. Because I find that if you just, some people will probably, like you said, will just go through I forgive you and not truly mean it. The worst kind of liar in this world is a person who lies to themselves. If you can lie to yourself, you can lie to anybody. So that's what my point is about, sitting down and processing. Like, if someone does something to me right away, I'm not going to lie. I can't, and they did it right then. Like, I'm going to just use an example, but someone slapped me in my face. I'm not going to instantly in my mind say, okay, I forgive you.
I'm not going to say I would instantly.
What I mean?
I'm not saying
that's what I mean.
What I would say is that I'm not going to say I instantly forgive you necessarily, unless I can. But people have done worse to me, and I have instantly forgiven them. But I will say this, that's
on an individual
basis. I know, but all I'm trying to say is that you're right, be true. And we talked about it in the beginning. Some people will just say, I forgive you, but have you really forgotten? But if you haven't, then we're not talking about that type of forgiveness. I'm talking about the true forgiveness. If you're not true, then you're right. Then you haven't forgiven. What I'm speaking to is I'm inviting people, as best as you can, get to that true place of forgiveness, because that is the only place. That is the only place that you are truly free.
It's true.
That is the only place. True. So process or not, like my process might take 10 seconds or a day. Somebody else's might take a week. What I'm saying though is if you can cut your week down to a second, you're doing yourself a favor. And it's only, I'm not, in no way am I saying to anybody, lie to yourself and say you've forgiven when you haven't. That is not the message that I would be trying to say to anybody, because like I said, I lived 10 years believing I had forgiven and didn't. So I know that is counterproductive. But what I'm saying is where you can narrow that gap of true forgiveness, and you know that, as you said, what are the fruits of it? That you're not carrying it anymore. That you're not a victim of it anymore.
So we're both saying the same thing, but
we are saying the same thing. But I'm saying, what I'm saying is that I guess, and now I can only speak from my experience. is that the longer it took me
Mm-hmm.
to do the internal work, it's still the same internal work
Yeah.
that's being done.
Mm-hmm.
The longer it took me
Mm-hmm.
to do that work, the more in bondage I was to that
Yeah.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing would be to say to anybody is, I know it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes, I'm not even going to say I know it's hard anymore. I'm going to say I know it can seem like it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I know it can feel like it's hard. But what I would say is that you owe it to yourself. Love yourself enough to get to that place as quickly as you can of
That's a fair
true,
statement.
absolute, pure
Yeah.
forgiveness. And
That I
if you
can
can
agree.
do that instantly,
Mhm.
then more
Even
power
better.
to you.
Even
Because
better.
you are now
Yeah.
free of an offense that has happened to you that you did not ask for, that is at the hands of somebody else. And do not give your joy or your power away to anybody. So as quickly as you can get to it, my experience, I got to just tell you from mine, and pass that on to you, is do it as quickly as you can, not for the other person, but for yourself.
That I can
And that's-
absolutely agree with. I can do
Yeah.
that. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah.
to your point,
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up though
Yeah.
if you can't get there right away. And I'm not
Exactly. That's my point.
don't beat
Yes.
yourself up if you can't get there right
That's
away.
exactly
Because it is. But what I would say, because it takes
Mhm.
practice. But if you understand the true
Yeah.
power in forgiveness of that it is given to you,
Mm-hmm.
you will then recognize you
It
will
will
want to
become
get there
easier
quicker.
where it will be a place where you can. It'll seem instantaneous,
Yeah.
but it's a process.
It's-
For everyone, their process is different.
Yeah.
And in that process, to thine own self, be true while you're walking through that process.
To that Tracy, that
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
do not forfeit
Yes.
that
That
any
is-
step
yeah,
of that along the
exactly.
way. So yeah.
But
So,
yeah, the quicker you can get there, believe me, it is. She's absolutely right. It's a weight off of you immediately, as soon as you can get there. But yeah. But like I said, yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys go in and work it out within yourself. And if you can come to that instantaneous forgiveness, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing.
and if you can't, then do
your
the
work.
work. Do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. Do
Yeah.
the work. Do
And
the
then
work.
eventually, maybe you will get to that place where it will be instant.
Yeah. With forgiveness, however way, do
Yeah.
the work with forgiveness being your
For
goal.
you, yes.
And being your
Yes,
goal.
yes,
Right? So if the distance is from here to here,
Mhm.
then just try to figure out an efficient way to get from here to
Absolutely.
here, where, to Tracy's point, you are always being true to yourself and
Yes.
and that you can actually get to that place. Not false forgiveness, not half-ass forgiveness, not
Exactly. That's
whatever.
the thing, 'cause
But
that's not
yeah, like
forgiveness.
don't
Yeah.
half-ass forgive. You know what I mean?
That's true. What's the point?
What's the point?
It's
There
going
is
to
no
come back
point.
and all into
Don't 3/4 forgive. But when you
Exactly.
can get to a place of true forgiveness, my God, you have completely
true.
freed yourself
I
from
agree.
that situation. Yeah?
That I can totally agree with.
Can we shake hands on that one?
This is what we do. We have
What we do.
to, because we have to make each other think
Yeah.
and
And
hopefully-
represent what the
both
experience
sides
of
exactly. Because
yeah.
there's you and I, we only make up two people
True.
for the whole world. Everyone has their own way of doing things. So, and I think that's why that comes up, because I think we both do that with each other, because we can see the other person's side.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, well, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not that anything's wrong with either side. It's
No.
just trying to encompass everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
all opinions. And we'd like to know what your opinion is too. You should pipe in and let us know how you forgive, and if it's a longer process for you, shorter. If you're working on making it a shorter process, please fill us in.
Fill us
Because
in.
we can learn. We want to learn from you. as
Totally.
well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
So, all right.
All right, that was a good one. I liked it.
Don't worry, Trace. I
We're
forgive you.
feisty.
I forgive you.
I already forgave.
forgive
There
you.
was nothing.
Well, look, and actually, it's going to take me a little while to forgive. You forgave me instantly.
I did.
It's going to take me a little bit of time to forgive you.
Well, I didn't even think there was anything to forgive. It was opinions. I didn't think I did anything wrong. Did I offend you? I'm sorry. But yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyways. Emphasize the H's, but yeah.
Anyways, thank you once again for joining us for this episode of Seeds, and
We would love to know what seeds you're going to plant today.